Welcome to the Kentucky Atheist.
Ain't no motherfucker in this world could do it like me. Open up your eyes and insert a little rising. You don't have to love me, you don't have to like me. Got enough love in myself, in my psyche. You should have the same in your brain nightly. If you wanna taste it, you can fucking try me. If you wanna hate, you know where to find me. And if you're going atheist, you can fucking fight me. I'll be cruising in my lane fast, call it high speed. I've been working hard, yeah, I've been working nightly. If you think you'll win, nah, unlikely. I be taking shots, yeah, cold-blooded, icy. Watching numbers grow is what I call sightseeing. In the front row, run it up when they hype me. The following grows, they know how to ignite me. Call me CEO, I've been running shit right, see. And I ain't playing games, I create my own lane.
What's up, guys? I see Al and Pepper. That's all I see right now. How's it going, guys? I will be dropping a link for those of you in YouTube. If you're someone watching this over on Twitch or whatever, you follow me there. I doubt anybody's over there right now, but if you are, I won't be dropping links in the Twitch chat. They'll only be available in the YouTube chat because Twitch has some serious problems with unwanted folks. I probably shouldn't even drop this here, honestly, but I'm going to, and I'll deal with it later. If it becomes a problem, I'll fix it. Which, given that I'm talking about everybody's favorite sociopathic orange Jesus, I wouldn't be surprised if a couple trolls show up. Barnaby Wild on top of things. Well, I guess the dishes are just going to have to wait. Literally just got up to do them. Thanks. I was saving you from that, Pinworm. That was my goal today. So this stream's a little different, but I'll talk about some stuff here before I get going. Al's going to join me on stage while I mention these few things before we talk about the subject at hand.
Right.
This show is going to have a call-in feature in the future for my regular shows anyway. You'll be able to, people can call in and bitch and complain and agree, whatever they want to do. There will be, I'm not sure if it's going to be Sunday or Monday yet, but there will be a particular show that is dedicated just to call-ins. But I'll still have guests for that. Grayson is going to be the guest for the first one from Critical Base Theory. So that'll be on the 22nd before we start using the call-in feature. But we will have some, to where people can call in. There'll be call screeners and all that good stuff. I'm in the process of setting all that up. I've already bought the software and done all that crap. And for those that wanted the conversations to kind of go wherever they went, that's kind of the way to handle that. But anyway, how are you guys doing today, Al and Mike?
I'm doing all right.
I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
We weathered the storm. We weathered the storm pretty good. We didn't lose any power, but some shingles came off the roof and fence damage, but nothing too mission critical. Of course, like gazebo got pounded. Anyways, but that was weather news. So go ahead.
I'm glad it wasn't too bad. We got flooded here a few places, but my house was dry, so I should not complain about anything. But we had a lot of rain for 2 straight days, and now it's raining again. But this is just an isolated thing.
Yeah.
But I thought we were out of it because it was blue skies all day until like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah. Actually, Barnaby, I was on that stream just a few minutes ago. They kind of ran me off, so I came over here. They didn't actually run me off. They just insisted that once I began to talk about the subject that we weren't going to talk about it anymore. So I left.
I think it's done us a great disservice, our parents and our grandparents, by saying that there's 3 forbidden topics, and that was politics, religion, and sex. Now, we can leave sex out of it, but politics and religion, without that discussion, has gone rampantly wrong.
Yeah.
And
That-
we're now seeing what has happened when people refuse to stand up and say something.
Well, specifically, what I'm going to address, I agree with you, Michael. I do. Specifically, the thing that I really want to talk about today is this whole idea that Biden shouldn't run, and we'll get into some points and stuff of that, but and why I think a lot of people are looking at that with blinders on, and maybe why it should or shouldn't be the case, because I think there's good arguments for both of those, but that's specifically the thing that I wanted to kind of get into today. I watched a show on the line last night, which I never watch, and I just happened to go on and watch Jimmy and Matt talking about Biden should step down and all these things, and honestly, for me, it's not about who's running against Trump. It's a vote against Trump. I would vote for the color blue.
No, I agree, but I think that the time has gone where Biden could step down. A long time ago. It's too late in this horse race to try to swap out horses.
Well, the Democrats, I agree. The Democrats kind of fucked the big one on that one. They passed along all these stories that, oh, Biden's just fine behind closed doors, and he's it's like talking to a genius and all these things, and that obviously wasn't the case. So that being said, what's up, James? Good to see you again today.
Yeah, I dropped out of that other stream to jump into this.
Yeah, me too. Quickly.
Quicker than I did. I should have been quicker.
I know nothing about it because it started raining like crazy, and I had to put everything down and start moving a machine really quickly. So I missed whatever went down. I missed it. So I'm in the dark again. But
okay, so.
But I know about this the Biden thing. I've been hearing all sorts of snippets from, and I have an opinion, even though I don't live there and I don't have a horse in the race exactly. But I do feel like being your next door neighbor, it's a major thing we think about up here.
Yeah. Oh, sure. I think that everybody is concerned. I think that it would be no, I don't want to say silly, but it definitely has implications on the rest of the world on who the American president is. I mean,
yeah.
I think
it does, because it's such the big powers are, in terms of huge populations and then influence, military might, economic might, the USA's in there, that the dynamics may be changing, but there's no pretending the USA isn't in the top 3, I think, and it probably depends which metric you look at, but yeah, the U.S. is still a huge power, and politics under Trump have seemed disorganized, to say the least. Yeah, and I feel like the last 4 years have been about what's going to happen when Trump runs again, instead of what can be done to improve the overall well-being of people in your country and also for the rest of the world, and the things that are orchestrated by superpowers.
That's why I started with the point that it in this case, in this situation, even if you have an issue with whoever it is that runs against Trump, that voting against Trump is important. Now, Biden, I think, has been a successful president. He's done lots of great things. He's passed lots of great stuff. But if the electorate doesn't have confidence in electing him, that is a problem. So there's two different things to talk about here. That's not the same thing. And I want to be clear about that, because do I personally think Biden should drop out? I say it doesn't really matter. But if he can beat Trump, run. I don't care. Again, I would vote for the color blue.
Our two system, our two system vote, and it is two systems. Our two system voting is a massive chaos when you can win the popular vote and still not take the office because of the electoral college, and that has caused serious issues with who takes the office. So even if we can get Biden to get the majority of the votes, which hopefully we can, because Trump is a mess. He actually suggested nuking a freaking hurricane. Guy is fucking nutso.
I heard him say that he wants to pit refugees against each other in gladiator battles to see who gets to stay.
Oh, he's horrible.
I hope that was a joke, but I'm knowing him, it probably isn't. But I heard that this week, and I feel like the thing I wanted to say about the Biden thing is really that I think like maybe 2 years ago they should have started, like maybe they should have started internally longer ago, but 2 years ago they should have started with like a grooming program to like get people used to maybe Kamala or maybe another candidate, or Kamala with another candidate, to come up and be the team to beat in the White House, and let Joe Biden be a figurehead, and perhaps that's what he's been. It's hard to say. Like, so that's sort of the way people are talking. But I mean, the country hasn't collapsed under his rule, despite the fact that a lot of people are running around saying the sky is falling.
Well, I think there's a difference in Trump that was elected in 2016 and the Trump that would be elected now, specifically because of Project 2025.
That's a good point.
So I do think that, while Trump wasn't able to do more damage than he did, I'll put it that way, I think that he's prepared to do it now. And that's why I say that it shouldn't really matter, honestly, a vote against Trump. Now, if the candidate can't carry the vote to beat Trump, and it's not looking like, I mean, currently it doesn't look like that's the case, but it's early, so here's the way I see it. And not that this matters at all, but on one hand, we have Trump convicted of many, many felonies and committed many others that he's admitted to. So it's not like it's a question. But also, including sexual assault. But also wants to, do away with the Department of Education, the National Weather Service, I guess, because they didn't like his Sharpie drawing, but whatever. But all of these other things that Project 2025 has with it too, cuts to entitlements things and all the bad things that come with it. Hold on a minute.
Yeah,
I'll let everybody talk. All of those things, and then we have Biden, who is old and isn't the best speaker, never was, but there's clearly, his age is affecting him, and he's admitted as much. But comparing these two things, it's still not really a question, honestly. But now that's different from, does the public have confidence in Biden winning the election? And if they don't, then yeah, he should be replaced. But if he can beat Trump, then I don't care. It's not Biden who runs the country necessarily. Sure, the buck stops here or whatever, but it's the people in place. MAGA Republicans are bad for us in every way, whether it's Trump or one of the other idiots, so that's
the people he surround himself with, right, would be a concern as well, like in stuff he said he would do.
Correct. And okay, so felon Trump is not allowed even a jury duty position in Harris County at all, because he now has a felony, or actually quite a few. And as former military, it took me forever to get my regular security clearance. Whoever's POTUS has to have the highest security clearance ever, and yet they're going to give it to this felon? How? Why? What? That makes no sense. So why are they even running this asshole from hell? Ugh. because I think I know why. Because basically, he's their puppet.
Yeah, and then it's a name
Yeah.
recognition thing too, because like it's always, despite the fact that the popular vote does not necessarily gain you the office in the U.S. I don't know exactly how every system works around the world, but I know the one in the U.S. was somehow built to not give all the power to just the majority of the people, but also to give individual power to individual states, so that small states wouldn't get wiped out by something. Which I get, maybe there's some value in that, because I realize it was started as like a union and a cooperation of many states together to have this federal government. But it seems like what's happening is some states are like, it's almost like you have a special interest group because of like where you live in the country, and what you think is good for you and your people is more important than what's good for the other people around you. And it's really weird to me that the disparity is so huge when human needs are very similar.
Yes, well, GOP seems to be the I got mine party, you fuck off type of people, and it pisses me off big time.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that, heard a lot of that too. Yeah, people that are in decent shape are like, well, the best way for me to keep in decent shape is to make sure that nobody else gets a fair shake, because then I'll have what I have and I'll be in a better position. That's a terrible way to look at the way we handle our resources, which are, they're limited, and some are renewable, but our resources are limited on this whole planet. And the idea that we cooperate to work with them and make everybody's life good seems like a terrible thing to say. And I realize people will call me a commie for saying that. That's fair. They call me a commie just because I think we should like pool our resources to pave the roads around here. But yeah, the attitude of some I think stands in the way of success for all.
Sometimes YouTube will just throw up a recommended video, and I usually ignore them. The other day, a recommended video that came across from YouTube is how to survive a dictatorship. I kid you not.
That surprised me.
That just floated across, so I took a look at it. It's seriously bad news, but no one's dictator for a day. If they take dictatorship, it's on. And of course, with Project 2025, he'll wind up with so many more powers, and they'll change this country basically into a theocracy. And that's what they've been pushing for decades. And now they got the money and backing to try to do it. Yeah,
and and it's not the majority of your country, which is the really terrible thing. I mean, if 99% of the people in the country really, really wanted that, I wouldn't be happy about it. But I would say, well, that is democracy. If that's what people genuinely wanted. But I think what's happening is the wants of the few combined with the apathy of many, but not all, make it really difficult to change people's minds. And the way the messaging goes, it's amazing how many people vote against their own best interests.
Well, I think
happens here too.
I think due to our failing education system, a lot of people have seen rich people synonymous with smart people or good people or truthful people, and I don't think that's. Of course, I don't think that's the case.
Well, I think we all know that ain't true, but like sometimes you have to know what I know people at all ends of the spectrum, so to speak, and you know what? Some of the finest people I know are at the extremes of both, but also some of the shittiest people I know. And so wealth doesn't make you who you are. Your character as a human being does, and seeing character in politics seems like a very rare fucking thing.
Yeah. And Nitty's got a good point too. Is this is a system built off of other systems that wasn't designed for how it's used now, and it's whenever these things were put forward, no one had any idea of the size of the country or that it was going to be what it is today. I mean, nor could they know.
No, they probably like if you brought a person from the initial days of the USA, like, which is, I mean, it's obviously a little bit different than even what it is, what it became over the next number of decades and centuries. But in the late 18th century, I think very few people that were alive then, if you could somehow time port them to today and show them the USA of today, they wouldn't recognize the place, nor would the first thing they said would have been, "Oh, I have definitely, this is the USA I imagined when we signed the Declaration of Independence," that sort of thing, right? Like there's no way they would have imagined that. And I think, people talk about the founding fathers' intentions in the, what do you call is it your Constitution? Is that the right document that they refer to about when it comes to laws and stuff? Like, what's the intention?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Constitution is the fundamental law of the United States.
Yeah.
And it was designed to be, it's hard to amend it. I want to just briefly say that the Electoral College, along with the 3/5 compromise, was all about protecting the institution of slavery. It was to make sure that since the southern states, with the exception of Virginia, which was the largest state, really, the Old Dominion, make sure that those states weren't overwhelmed by states where the institution wasn't a fundamental part of the economy. And what became the fundamental part of the Southern economy as early as the very, very late 1600s and very early 1700s. It was the institution as it developed in the English colonies was the result of its instantiation in Barbados. The whole slave system came out of the sugar plantation system established in Barbados. We did it. Cynthia Douglas and I talked at length about the doctrine of discovery and the way slavery evolved in British North America from the founding days until it became what it became in the South. And it was America's. It was the original sin of the organization of the United States government. The man who wrote the Declaration of Independence Thomas Jefferson was a slave owner. Famously, there's the Jeffersons and then there's the Hemmings. You had two families and the whole program. It's a very, very sad state of affairs, and it lingers to this day. I think, which is why, a bit of a ramble here, which is why the movement against DEI and
CRT.
And cathode ray tubes. I mean, critical race theory. It is such a bugbear for the right. It's the lost cause is still with us. It's a tragedy, and it seems like every generation gets to pick somehow or another. Every 100 or so years, we get to pick where do we want the nation to go, and that's the choice we have now. And I really don't see if it can be put in as stark terms as possible. What needs to happen now, regardless as to which of the two men wind up being the standard bearers. I mean, let's face it. Donald J. Trump is 3 years younger than old Joe Biden. What's 3 years?
Yeah.
Exactly.
He's older now than he said. He said it was impossible for Biden to rule the country at the age he's at now when he was running 4 years ago, right? Like he literally said, why would you vote for this old guy?
And I think Joe pointed out earlier, it's not the person at the top of the ticket that's going to make up the government. And Donald did not expect to win in 2016. He did not have his ducks in a row by any means. But the Heritage Foundation has found the ducks, put them in a row, written 900 pages of exactly what they will do. And what they will do is follow through, provide Donald Trump with the tools to do what he says he's going to do. Be a dictator from day one. That's what you're voting for. If you don't, make that eventuality impossible.
Yeah,
You're right, Star Song. And that's what from the moment they nominated him the first time, I've been telling people that, because who backed him was the money of the religious right, and they want to push this through. And it's been a slow process to get a puppet up there.
That's why Trump was his VP. The guy wanted to hang at the end of the thing because even if Mike Pence is a right-wing religious nutter, he wasn't so much of a right-wing religious nutter that he wanted to overthrow the institutions that have been in place since 1789, which was when the Constitution was adopted.
Yeah,
so it's where we're at.
Thank you for the $2 super chat, by the way, Star Song. Trump is used for implementing the theocracy. Yeah. And I think also that the fact that some of our laws and things that have been around for a while need a little updating doesn't necessarily mean that you throw everything out and go a totally different direction, which seems to be the argument that the right sometimes makes, because these things don't work, when it's very clearly Trump demonstrating the some of the problems we have. But anyhow, yeah, I mean, Joe Biden also, and it's sad that because of his poor performance in the debate the other night, which it was a poor performance, but he didn't stand there and lie the whole time. He didn't. It was still way better than what came out of Trump's mouth. But now everything, Joe Biden has always been not a great speaker, trips over his words. That's been a thing with him in the past too. But now every time he does it, it's because he's so old and ancient and he can't talk. And it's like, I don't know if every mistake is that. I mean, sure that may contribute to it. I'm sure it does contribute to it. He is an old man. But when we're talking about what his goals are for the United States government and the United States, those are solid. I mean, versus the other choice here, which is throw out the Constitution. I'm going to be a dictator. We're going to make it all these things that everybody has voted for and wanted. We're going to make them all illegal. I mean, we're going to get rid of the Department of Education. We're going to make people who go to public school serve in the military, but ones that go to private school don't have to. Things like that are crazy and not anything that most Americans would want. But Trump has embedded himself, first of all, with the religious nationalists, or the Christian nationalists rather, because he knows that he gets that vote just based on that. And
that's a lot of votes.
Pence brought him the Christians, and he tried to have him hung. But he also knows that most Americans are stupid because our education system has been beat to death to the point to where it's not a priority to educate people about how our government works, why it works, what system of checks and balances are or even means. these things haven't been important in years now. And I'm not saying I got a great education, but it's something that's been decaying for years and years and years. And now we're to the point to where it's like, well, Trump said it, it's probably true. Now I'm going to go watch me some Monday Night Football. Like this is a problem.
It is.
Distraction and ignorance is a huge problem with the American people.
You know, you would think that the chance of hanging Mike Pence and the fact that they literally came prepared and erected a gallows for hanging Mike Pence and Nancy Pelosi and whoever else they could put their little mitts on the 6th of January would be a warning to the people that are supporting this, because Pence was his vice president. No one is safe. No one. Even if you're following down the line, the minute you get out of line, you get out of step with a dictator with a certain thing, you wind up like Ernst Röhm in crossing Hitler. Guess what? The SA just all of a sudden disappears. The SA put the Nazis in power. They were the boots on the ground. They were the brown shirts. They brought Hitler to power, and Hitler wiped him out in the Night of the Long Knives. You know, this is what you get with totalitarians. Look at Putin. Look at Stalin. Look at Mao.
One thing
that's what we're faced with here. It's no joke.
One thing that's really pissed me off among my peers, the veterans, is a lot of them are pushing for this. It goes against the Constitution. It goes against our rights. But obviously, some of my fellow veterans were in so long that they think totalitarian, like the military, is the way to go, which is wrong. It's incredibly wrong. But my dad, my brother-in-law, possibly mother-brother-in-law, and the church, that's the big part, are all putting their backing behind this guy who doesn't give a shit. Trump doesn't care about the laws. It doesn't apply to him. And he's already made that perfectly clear back when he said he could shoot someone on 5th Street or whatever and get away with it. He doesn't give a flying fuck. And he's proven it over and over again. And my fellow veterans, a lot of them, are like, yeah, let's go for it. Bullshit. Serious bullshit. Sorry. It gets my blood boiling.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah, ask away.
All right. So this all started, this TV kind of impression happened with Kennedy and Nixon, right? Kennedy won because he didn't sweat and he looked nicer and stuff like that. But since when do we judge a president and his abilities to be a president by how well he answers questions on a stage next to another guy who's running for him? I mean, if he's surrounded in the Oval Office by competent people who know how to do things and he has time to make a decision, why do we care if he stumbles over words or can't think right off the bat? I mean, it just doesn't seem related, but people win the elections for that reason. I don't get it.
Well,
now go ahead.
Who wants to go first?
I think you're right, Ken Orm. I think since when do we do that? Well, we've done it. We've done it according to appearances, and we've done it according to. I think that's part of our politics. But there are counterfactuals. I mean, there's Franklin Roosevelt. People talk about somebody stumbling. The man literally couldn't walk. And the people around him were at pains to make sure that his disability wasn't visible in public. And he was in tremendous pain when he gave all of those speeches, gave the speeches where he's standing up. He was doing so with the aid of iron braces, and he's in tremendous pain when doing so. But look at who he brought in. I mean, he brought Francis Perkins, Social Security, everything that we have from the New Deal came by virtue of the fact that he had an administration that was actually doing the work that the country needed to have done in another critical period. The other example is the election of 1920, where President Wilson had literally had a stroke and was replaced as the Democratic nominee because he literally had a stroke.
Yeah.
His wife wanted him to run.
I would answer your question with a question, Pinworm, which is never good, but we'll try this anyway. So I agree with you, first of all, that's not the way you decide whether to elect a president. It's not the best way anyway. But back to the thing of most Americans are not educated and don't understand much about how this works. If it is the case that because of that or any other reason that they don't want to elect Joe Biden, then should we replace Joe Biden with someone who can beat Trump for sure? And I think that's really what the question has to be about here, not whether it should be this way or it's okay that it's this way, but can they beat him? Because he has to be beat. If he's not beat, there's bad things coming down the pipeline for everyone.
We might be screwed either way. Okay, so I personally agree that Biden should have passed the baton. He could have passed it Kamala, I should say, or whoever early on instead of saying, "Oh, I'm on a second term." That would have been preferable because a lot of times the VP can step up into the POTUS status, and it's happened before. I mean, so Reagan to Bush, then Bush to someone else. But this popularity contest started probably way back then when we elected a freaking idiot actor. But
was AOC the next person? I mean, was that the only option that they had, or?
Well, that comes down to Biden. There were other options available because there was very good people already in politics he could pass the hat on to. Even if it wasn't Kamala, he could have said, "Hey, I can put it behind this guy over here." But instead of doing that, he chose what usually is accurate. It's usually to get a second term after the first, usually, not always. But instead of doing that, where he could have bowed out, he didn't. Now we're so late in the race when someone else be able to carry the torch and win those votes. Because the election's like 4 months away, and we are damn close to the finish line. It may still be, we might lose either way. It might be a lose-lose situation because of who's carrying the vote. That stuff.
Are the Democrats saying, without saying it, that Joe Biden is the best that they have to offer?
At the moment, yeah.
Yep. At the moment.
Not really. I mean, there just hasn't been motion. I want to see someone stand up and say, "Yes, I'll do this." Whether it's Kamala Harris, whether it's the governor of California, whether it's somebody needs to be that person.
Yes.
Who is there going to be a Goldwater moment where senior Democrats go to President Biden and say, for the good of the party, for the good of the country, we've got the guy, we want you to endorse him, and let's go forward and beat this drive towards a Christo-fascist dictatorship. And that hasn't happened yet. But the key for the public, I think, and I may be totally wrong, but the key for the public right now is to understand that that's the choice. I mean, there's another counterfactual here. What if Donald Trump steps aside and it's Mike Johnson, who is literally a Seven Mountains Christo-fascist?
Yes.
What if that happens? He's also in his 40s.
He might pick him as a VP.
And that to me would be the scariest thing, because now you've got the contrast of a guy in his 80s and a guy in his 40s, and it's like and the impetus in the public will be, well, we need some fresh blood, even if the blood is going to drain the rest of the nation of every single red blood cell that we have, we need fresh blood. That'll be appealing to low information voters, to this and that and the other thing. Is that going to happen? Probably not, but it could.
If they replace
Again,
him on the ticket, will that hurt them more than help them?
I think it'd make the contrast more stark.
Yeah,
I
but
don't know. I think these are all intangibles. Who the
Yeah.
fuck knows?
Yeah.
And I hate the money in politics thing, but I saw a note come across Twitter earlier that a lot of big money backers for Democrats refuse to back Biden because they want someone else in. Well, it's like I said, that boat is sailed. That ship is sailed. So it's just horrible. I mean, our options are worse, and even more worse. It's getting bad. And I hate to be a doomsayer, but this has been coming. And ever since, obviously, the right doesn't give a flying fuck how bad Trump is, whether he's got felons, whether he's got rapists, whether he's siphoning money and he's stole classified documents. He even had in the White House where there was no one with him as he was talking with Putin. Usually there's an observer, a riot, or whatever. No, he didn't do that. Shaking hands and saying North Korea is a great government. Yeah, it would be for him. And people are ignoring all that shit just because, he's our orange Jesus.
Well, that shows you everything you need to know about, like, what people are worried about when it comes to politics. Is they want their money looked after, and if they think that someone will earn them votes, they'll keep them there.
Yeah, and
that side is doing it. I guess that what I'm saying is the Republican side, financial backers are going to keep pouring money into making sure they get this the way they want, and Democratic financial backers are more hesitant. Sounds like, anyway.
well, the Republicans have spun this law that somehow they're all for the working man and they're for the average American putting more money in their pockets and stuff, and this just isn't true. It's a lie. First of all, they don't at all intend to do that. They intend to keep the money with the rich people, and it's just another version of Reagan's trickle down economics, which is crap.
I'll tell you, if Reagan never was president, the world would be a better spot right now.
Oh, sure. Star Song, $5. Mike Johnson is against everything I ever stood for, even when I was a believer. Yeah, Mike Johnson is awful in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But
Dabba-doo lawyer.
Yeah, we have this issue though, to where half the country is voting Republican and half is voting Democrat. So we have a handful of swing states that determine this. And right now, and even before the debate, Joe Biden loses that election because of those swing states.
Well, I don't know about that because Trump has Trump as the current state of the state of play in all of those states is Trump has no ground game in any of those states.
Yeah.
At all. There are no. He's got no offices no campaign offices in Pennsylvania, or maybe one. Joe Biden has like 15. There is a ground game, but what Trump has is people in critical election positions, which is to say, secretaries of state and the people that count the votes and all of this. So he's counting on doing the exact same play he ran in 2020. It's like, I don't need the ground game. I don't care what the vote is. I'm going to challenge it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tie it up, and it's going to be 2000 on steroids. He doesn't
Roger
care
Stone
if he wins the vote. He doesn't care. It ain't going to matter. He's going to mobilize his troops to do the same fucking thing he did the last time.
Roger Stone was caught
every
on
election
secret
result.
audio. Yeah. Sorry.
Go ahead. That's all I got.
Oh, Roger Stone was caught on hidden audio describing exactly what you're talking about, Steph. That They have judges in place, and they have the people in place that whenever Trump loses, inevitably in these certain places, that they can fight it, and this time it will go
This
differently.
time it'll go their way. Yeah.
And as far as the Democrats go, they're saying, where's all the big names and everything? And it's like, if Newsom or anything has plans on running, it's the next election, because you don't go up against the incumbent usually. You know what I mean? So that if there's any plans with any of these folks out there, they're looking at 28, right? Because again, it's like, oh, they're going to throw together a campaign and set up offices and all this in a couple of months. You know, so that's when they say, how come, there weren't all these other options from Biden? Well, that's why, because they just assume it's Biden and we'll look at 28. So
that's why, and it's also because the Democrats have a memory. They remember 1968 when Gene McCarthy and Robert Kennedy ran, put themselves forward to run against a sitting one-term president, Lyndon Johnson. And Johnson stepped aside, and the Democrats lost with Humphrey.
That was my question.
The same thing happened in 1970. Was it 72, 76, right?
Jimmy Carter?
Oh, Jimmy Carter won in 82. 1980, whenever Reagan ran, right?
Yeah, it was 80.
Whenever Reagan.
Teddy Kennedy challenged Jimmy Carter, got into the race, primary Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter was the nominee, lost to Ronald Reagan. So the Democrats remember what happens when a sitting president gets challenged. It divides the party, screws things up. We don't want to do that. This is why, maybe if people had been concerned about this inevitability 6 months ago, as most everybody on this panel has said, something would be different now. But nothing's different now. Unless something radical shifts, this is the race we have. And the race we have is a choice between the continuance of a constitutional system that's been in place since 1789 and its complete destruction. That's the choice.
Why do other countries have like 10, 12 parties and we're stuck with two and a half at most?
Agreed.
Because it splits the vote, and people here complain. Like, we're one of those countries.
We have
where there's
multiple
like
parties.
6 or 7 that I think we have like 5 that are ever in contention. But it's really 3 or 4 most of the time, and one of them only exists in one of our provinces, which is like a state for those that aren't familiar. And I think there's another one that actually only exists in another province, but they're just there to like stir up shit. They don't actually get anything done. So people here complain, why are they even there? They're just preventing us from electing a party that's going to run the whole country.
What is the strength of the Parti Québécois?
We have the Bloc Québécois, the Parti Québécois. There's the Alberta something or other party. I think there's a Saskatchewan has or had one, and they tend to be, sadly, a lot of these parties tend to be full of the most the most vile types of thoughts that people have, and they are often backed by religious fundamentalists and people that are I forget what the term is when you mistrust everyone that wasn't born in your country. There's a term for that.
Xenophobic.
Xenophobic, yeah. There's a xenophobic sort of backing to these parties, and they appeal to those folks that have those attitudes that I think in the U.S. like there may be people who have Republican ideals on some things, or at least what they pretend to have ideals on, that aren't actually having terrible ideas about humanity in general. But then but this is what these parties end up doing, is like, well, these people will put an X next to our name, so like, let's go for it. And it's a sad commentary on how it works, but I think people that are willing to be on this panel and talk about this are relatively informed. Even I don't even live in your country. I'm probably more informed than the average voter in your country on the issues in your country because I care. I care about what happens to people. I care about the world in general. But a lot of people don't. They don't care. It's not what they're interested in, and they're not engaged. And if you're not, you know, in front of the firing squad every day because you're going to lose something, you may forget when you're voting for something that you think helps you. Like I think Joe was saying, like, I got mine, and fuck you. It's an attitude people have, and you know what? That's fine when you have yours, but they forget. What about when you don't have yours? Who's got your back then?
My niece stated that she's going to vote for the Mango Mussolini because he promised her $6,000. I'm like, he did not promise. He promised to stay the fuck away from us when he lost the election. He didn't do that either. And I told her that. I said, you know, it's good that you are getting involved in politics and vote, but you got to remember this guy hadn't done anything he said he was going to do in the first place. But yeah, I mean, that's truly what she told me because, he's going to give me $6,000.
Where's that $6,000 coming from?
Exactly.
Even if he's going to follow through with it, what that means is he's hollowing out something that you put the $6,000 in for in the first fucking place.
Mm-hmm.
That's what people forget. When the government tries to buy your vote, they're taking money out of the pot. You put it in there so that something good would happen in your country. And then when a politician bribes you with it, that means they're giving it back to you to say thanks, but no thanks. I think we're just going to fuck you over some other way.
Yep.
Hey, Robin.
Well, I thought this thing was going to work on my headset, but it's not going to.
Oh, no. Hey, Robin, how are you?
Is it messed up?
No. I can hear you well. I don't know if anybody else can.
Oh.
You're good.
It clicked off my Bluetooth as soon as I got on it, on the StreamYard. I don't really want to talk about Biden. Just come here to tell everybody to go watch Mesa and Kent Hovind debate. It's awesome.
I watched that earlier, at least part of it.
She spanked his ass.
Yeah.
So hard.
Wait, who was it?
It was Mandy Thomas and Hovind.
Oh, okay, yeah, I definitely got to see that. Okay.
She had him mad. He wanted to spit.
Oh, yeah.
And she never lost her cool. She's so good. But I said, y'all better get the hell out of Alabama.
Yeah.
But I'm just sick. I can't even think about it.
Yeah. Your audio is kind of falling apart now, actually.
It is now, yeah. It was good to start.
I know. Hey, you use your headset?
I'm on my headset right now on the Blue Parrot, but I've had issues too with StreamYard and my Parrot, but nobody's complained about it today, so I hope that's a good news. But maybe people are just being super polite.
Trust me, I'm never super polite.
No, I think I'm using the Blue Parrot, Robin.
You may want to just try cutting your volume down, Robin, because it's peaking is what it seems to be the issue. And you're coming through really loud.
Any better?
It is better. You still got a cutout in there, but it was still better.
Okay. I don't understand why I have this all the time. It won't stay on my Bluetooth once I go in here.
Yeah, I don't know why it does that.
Can't understand a word hardly.
All right, bye.
Bye, Robin. Thanks for coming. All right, we haven't heard from EC yet. EC, you got anything to say?
Yeah. I think there's a problem in the United States, particularly with politics. I think it's extremely partisan, and it's not really focused on what is actually best for the people. It's really just focused on, am I team blue or team red? And I think that that's the wrong view. I see a lot of tribalism. And when I see the tribalism, I don't really see people actually fighting for the correct issues. They're just like, I want my person at my team, and my team is good and that other team is bad, and I'm like, yeah, this is why nothing is changing, because we just keep siding with our team and we're not actually pushing for real change. My field is I do social work, I do peace and conflict resolution. These are my kinds of fields of academia and work. And unfortunately, we don't have resources that help people who are disenfranchised. We hear people talking about it. I hear one party says, "Oh, I care so much about people who are disenfranchised." They don't do anything. They don't actually help people. They can talk a big game. They don't actually really do anything. And that's my problem, is that we have a lot of talking and not a lot of walking. And that's a problem for me personally.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think in I don't want to say in a perfect world. I want to say it would be preferred that people address actual issues and vote according to who is going to make life better for the most Americans. I mean, that would be ideal, but
Big money backs both parties. Right now, GOP has
I agree.
Right now, GOP has more big money than Democrats, but I've been a centrist my whole life. And if people would choose the candidate versus the party, we might not be in this situation. Maybe. I don't know. Well, I do know it's always worked for me up until this Mango Mussolini got nominated the first time. And then I knew, oh shit, we're probably not going to make it.
Yeah.
Well, I think it goes back to education personally, but
true. I mean, that's been dropping consistently. When I left high school, the average reader was at a 9th grade level, and currently it's down to about a 6th grade level. More monies are not being put back into schools. Then you got education systems like in Oklahoma where they're mandating people read the Bible. Fucking shit. Mandating that public schools read this 2,000-year-old tome and not even determining whether it's going to be KJV or NIV or none of that shit. They're trying to push a religion. There's over 40,000 denominations, and the religious people are pushing for this, and they think, oh, yeah, I'm going to get in. Well, what if the Amish win or what if the Catholics win? I mean, bullshit. Yeah. We're in trouble. We're in big trouble.
It does seem like it. And I have a question for those of you that are living in the States where maybe you hear things differently than I hear here as an outsider. And it's like, I hear Biden every once in a while, or some of the speeches he gives, he'll pay lip service to an issue. But I never hear Trump say anything about issues. He's always insulting people. When I hear him speak, I hear him insulting people and, making, I guess, what maybe are like meant to be jokes or comments that are to sort of garner support, just have his face in front of people. But I have never ever heard him say anything about an actual fucking issue. I realize there's like that Project 25 or whatever, but like, I never hear him address real fucking shit. He just says, "See how shitty everything is now that I'm not president?" And
no, he runs away from issues. He runs away from issues. He's running away from Project 2025 because as people become aware of what it actually says, they think, well, that's fucking bonkers.
And he would rather,
but he can't run. But here's a guy who's running away from Project 2025 who gave the keynote address just a few days ago at the Heritage Foundation that authored Project 2025. His personnel manager is the guy who wrote Project 2025. He does run away from issues and plays the politics of grievance because it is effective. It's why it's why so many of these issues are focused on culture war issues, whether it's whether it's my community that's being attacked or some other community that's being attacked. It's why critical race theory is being attacked. It's like the politics of grievance is strong with this one because it's a pathway to power, and it works.
Right.
That's what we're faced with right now, and I agree. So it would be better that if there was more focus, especially on those who tend to vote Democratic or who tend to and somebody mentioned changing the structure of the voting system. In Maine, we have ranked choice voting. I think that would be generationally a good way to address some of these issues. But that's going to take time, and people are impatient. And so in order to achieve the kind of systemic change, you need time.
Yeah.
And right now we're running out of time to even have the possibility of ever voting again past 2024.
Yeah. I think that what Trump does and what the right does in general, and the left is guilty of this sometimes too, though not nearly as often, is they know that Americans aren't educated on foreign policy and basic civics and those things, but they know that everybody has an opinion on these different culture war issues and things of that sort. So they stick to trying to Trump knows that he doesn't have to get a thoughtful response from anyone. He just needs an emotional response, and that's what he goes for. So that would be my thoughts on it anyway, Al.
Yeah, he fishes. He throws things out, and whatever sticks or gets a reaction, that's what he goes with.
Yeah, so you're not seeing a different Trump than I see by so far. Anyway, I know there's other people on the panel that may want to speak to that, but yeah, like it sounds like you're seeing the same Trump I see, which is like, because I realize in a foreign country, I'm getting snippets of like this is what Trump said today. You have to dig hard or like spend time with American media to really get it.
Yeah, and
I mean, I honest to God wish that my community had the kind of strength that everybody seems to think that has motivated 26 of the 50 states to pass laws making us essentially illegal.
Yeah.
I wish that 0.2% or 0.5%, if you want to be generous, of the population had that kind of power, but we don't. And as a result of the fact that people grab their crotches as soon as we're mentioned, because it's literally a visceral issue for people. It's effective. It motivates people to go and do these things, and pass these laws, and they're usually twinned with an equally crotch grabbing issue, which is abortion and reproductive rights. It's reaching at people's most basic understandings as to who they are and what choices they have in their lives. And
telling them they don't deserve to have those choices, and on top of that, they should do everything they can to take it away from everyone else.
Well,
like as though you're.
I think it's more. I think it leans more towards just power than as far as from the ones running from office. They just want power. They don't care about any of these issues really. They say what gets a response from the most of their base. If everybody came out tomorrow in support of, I don't know, pick a culture war issue. If everybody came out in support of one of those tomorrow, Trump would be on the TV saying he was all for same-sex marriage or whatever the case may be. That's what he would do. I mean, it's very predictable.
Yeah.
But Project 2025 also, I feel that it is picking up steam to where people are finding out what it is about and what the actual contents are. And I plan to actually do a stream and talk, maybe multiple streams because it is 900 pages, and actually talk about some of the things contained within, because this is, I think that if more Americans actually understood what it contains, there would be a non-zero number anyway that would say, hell no, I'm not voting for anybody that wants to do all those things.
Well,
and Trump
and as Pragmatic just put in the side chat, fear is best motivation. I'm fucking petrified.
Yeah.
I'm petrified of what is going to happen should a fascist regime, a Christo-fascist regime, be installed in the federal government? I'm
Jimmy,
fucking terrified.
Jimmy Snow put out a community post asking if we felt it would be good to do a deep dive into that 900-page manifesto. And last I checked, it was more yes than no. But do you guys think that would be a good idea if somebody of his caliber, like, just told everybody what was in it in layman's terms? I mean, I think that would help, but it's to get people watching it. That's a different story.
More
Well,
information is always better than less.
I've been posting on my social media accounts of Facebook and Twitter often about Project 2025. I've not been seeing any sort of interest in from people trying to figure out what it is. They're just like, well, whatever, and they just keep blowing it by. It's like this is dangerous.
There's people who haven't even heard of it. They don't even know what it is.
Well, I've been hearing about it for
True.
months.
And the other thing is that polling is consistent on particularly values in a culture war. That you're getting numbers like 60-40. 60% of the population will agree that a gay marriage, for example, same-sex marriage is fine. 60% of the population agrees that a woman, people who can get pregnant should have choices around reproductive issues. That any individual should have choices around reproductive issues, and it's across the board on most of these issues. But when you put a name to it, that's when things get divided. I mean, Nitty did a stream with a young man, I believe an Ohio State student, who walked up to his table in Panera, and they had a little back and forth, and Nitty went through these issues one at a time. Would you agree or disagree? Department of Education is important. I agree. These education generally is important. I agree. This, that, and the other thing. All of these issues, and the kid said he agreed to all of those things. And he said, and Donald Trump will make sure that that's all going to stay good. It's this counterfactual in people's minds and I think the counterfactual comes from these appeals to things that punch people in the gut.
Yeah, that emotional gut thing, and it reminds me too of they promise it. Everybody promises people what they want. It reminds me too of when you were saying that. What I was hearing is 60% of the people want this, and I was saying to myself, 90% of the Supreme Court wants to make sure that never fucking happens, that they never get what they want in your country. It seems like the courts are stacked, and that's meant to take what people want, whether they voted for it or not, and take it away from you.
Why is that still doing it?
I know my audio went weird. It's still weird? I'm going to mute.
That was my fault. I just don't know why it continued to do it.
Oh, okay.
Sounds better now.
Okay.
Joe's got double vision.
Well, it happens.
Yeah, sorry. I was trying to fix something without having to mess everything up to do it, and still did it. So,
well, that's
sorry for that, guys.
All right. I thought I'd screwed something up because I heard a weird sound and an echo, and all right. Anyway, all I did was disparage your Supreme Court. So, if anybody didn't hear it, I just said they're trying to take take what the voters want. The vote. 60% of want this, and the Supreme Court wants to make sure they never get what they want. or if they had it, that they take it away. That's how I hear what you're saying, Stephanie. Like you're saying that, and then I'm hearing in my mind, in the back of my mind, and the Supreme Court's been arranged in such a way that even with the Democrats, quote unquote, in power, they're losing.
Well, so there are ways of solving that. If you elect a majority Democratic Senate and who are willing to do it, and majority Democratic House, and they're willing to do it, you expand the court. You first of all get rid of the filibuster on a majority vote at the organizing, when the Senate organizes to adopt rules for the next session. You nominate, and you have a Democratic executive. You nominate, build the court to match the number of federal districts, which are 13 at the moment. So expand the court to 13, and then you can maybe modify these things. And it makes logical sense, because in theory, you have one Supreme Court justice oversees one circuit in the federal court system. So we've got 13. We've only got 9 justices at the moment. So that would make things more efficient, the judicial system too. That's one thing that could be done. Ranked choice voting, we mentioned before, that can be done. We have it in Maine. It took a while to do it, but all of these things take time, and we're running out of time.
Yeah, but you'd also have to do something about like Fox News and not like The Wire and stuff like that feeds everybody all the disinformation that people take as gospel before like any of that would even matter.
That too, you could reinstate the fairness doctrine. Even as weak as it was, at least it was something.
Yeah. I think these news stations that pass themselves off as news should have to, point out, at least be some disclaimer that this is entertainment or.
Yeah, but like even Fox News does that, and they go, well, we have our news, and that's like, Brit Bayer or whatever, that's during the day, and the rest of it, that's all entertainment, but it's still.
But that's all part of the game for them, right?
Yeah.
Because they bury the news in the entertainment.
Yeah, but the fact that they have a little news segment with like Shepard Smith or whoever it used to be, I haven't whatever, like that makes it all okay. You know what I mean? And then they go, well, everything that Tucker Carlson or whatever the next.
They prime it all. They prime it all day long.
Are you in the UK?
I am now, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So you're seeing the same fucking thing we are when we're talking about news concentration. I mean, Jesus Christ.
They prime their supposed news shows starting.
We have stricter regulation over news in Britain.
Starting with the morning shows, they spew all this stuff, and then by the time you actually get to one of their so-called news shows, they've already had how many shows repeating all this stuff. So even if their news show is legit and says, well, no, actually this happened, or they actually said this, how many see that one versus all the other little shows they got all day long?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and that gets into a whole like censorship argument and all that crap. And I don't think that we should be censoring it, but if you're going to, especially on things to do with, okay, so a federal agency is responsible for what it is and isn't okay to put on the TV, correct? I mean, everybody agrees with that. There is a federal agency that governs these things in the United States anyway.
We have one.
That federal agency needs to be responsible whenever there is a channel that is absolutely lying about what the federal government is and does. They need to point that out. They don't have to take them off the air. They don't have to censor anyone, but that needs to be made clear for everyone who's watching this. This is entertainment. This is not factual news. This is not news in the colloquial sense of the word in any way. And Fox News, by the way, uses the same thing Kentucky uses to get away with. Like, a bar isn't allowed to sell liquor out of a barrel, but if they add a few drops of water to it, it's then a cocktail. So, and it's that kind of thing. So they start out with a little bit of news, and then they have a little bit of opinion, and then they go to batshit crazy things like used to be Tucker Carlson and things like that, to where it's completely not news anymore. It is now purely entertainment, and it is purely opinion. And again, the average American isn't equipped to discern between the two.
Yeah, it's the classic, put the big headline and the big story, the big clickbait, and then even if it's all baloney and you have to retract it, that's never going to be on the front page. That's on page 10 in the tiny little fine print. Oh, by the way, the headline we had yesterday is all baloney. Just ignore that. Well,
sued, right?
too
That's
late
why
now.
the news should be silenced a bit, though, if they start lying. Because monetary things don't matter. Because, like, if you're owned by someone like Murdoch or whatever, they have enough money where it doesn't matter. Dominion sued them for like $1 billion, and they didn't care. Monetary things don't matter. You have to do something to take them off the air.
That's right.
It
Well,
wasn't
back in the
Right. And you know, I was just about to say the exact same thing. And you know, it's like the guy who owns CNN. You know, the well, not the guy, but the president of the court. He's like full on Trump. You know, it's like let's go. So it's like it's not. And you know, the Sulzberger family owns the New York Times. They're not full on Trump, but they don't mind. They're Trump adjacent. You know, they'll push the same kind of bullshit. And it's yeah, we used to have until St. Ronald Reagan got, you know, vitiated the Telecommunications Act and did away with the whole thing. I remember a news station would broadcast the news, and then, you know, this one guy I remember who was the producer of the news station here in Maine would do an editorial afterwards and put out the station's position, and at the end of it, he said, "That's our view. We welcome yours." And the station was required by law to provide equal time for opposing views, and that's gone. It's been gone. And again, these things take time.
The problem
and over the course of 40 years. We now have the media landscape we're looking at today, along with the technical innovation that allows us to have this channel to play with. So there's so many, you know, it's the balkanization of news sources and the vitiation of any regulation whatsoever of what kind of garbage goes out over the airways.
When anyone can act as a newscaster because they're on YouTube or, you know, like whatever streaming service, it also kind of doesn't matter, because people will just make up their own stuff anyway, and they go, well, I saw it on Facebook and I was scrolling through Twitter or TikTok, and that, you know, I saw it there. And, you know, you shouldn't trust the main news sources because they lie to you, don't they? So you got to trust the side ones, and everybody goes, oh, it's the person on YouTube, Facebook, they're the ones that know all the things, and madness lies that way.
I don't understand why we have left or right leaning news sources anyway, like channels and papers. I mean, it should just be straight up news. I mean, I don't understand why people have to skew things.
Because news doesn't make money. It needs to be skewed to make money.
And they're the ones yelling Banana Republic when they're basically running like a state media channel. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other issue there is, like, even before there was such a thing as broadcast news, before radio and all of that, the partisan newspapers in this country, like the Federalists versus the Democratic Republicans in you know, at the turn of the 19th century with Tom Jefferson and John Adams going at each other. It's like there was always this kind of partisanship bullshit. As soon as people started having disparate opinions as to the way government should be organized, you're always going to have differences of opinion, and you know, everybody gets to do that.
Well,
so you get the broadsheets that call themselves Tennessee Republican or the Tennessee Democrat, and they're at loggerheads with one another.
Hey guys, I'm gonna duck off. I gotta duck off. I'll be in the chat though.
Later,
good seeing everybody. Yep. Talk to you later.
See you, Dave. The influences that these newspapers have, like the New York Post cropping that video of Biden, like walking away from the parachute guys looking like he was lost and stuff. When you actually see the real video that's not cropped, it tells a whole different story. I think that should be illegal to do stuff like that.
It should be, because they're not even telling us what happened, and they're like, it used to be they'd say this is what happened and this is what you think about it, and now it's like this is what we're going to pretend happened and what you should think about it.
In 1963, is that when Kennedy was killed? I believe. Walter Cronkite went on the news and said, you know, the president has been killed or whatever, and was visibly upset.
Mm-hmm.
People gave him a lot of crap even for putting his emotions into that at the time. And you go from there to where we are today is a very different thing. The ethical journalism is no longer a thing. It's sensationalism. With the 24-hour news networks, it's sensationalism. And at some point, they've picked up on the fact that, hey, you know, people love to hear this politics stuff, and it's you know, so they started taking sides and
well, yeah, because they like to see people argue. They want conflict. They want people shouting at each other. You son of a bitch! You do that. They don't care about who's right and wrong. They don't care about anything except the drama of it. That's why nowadays they don't even care about like real thoughts and opinions. They just care about making the libs cry, because that's all it is. It went from being about stuff to being an emotional staked war because you can argue about it, and isn't arguing more fun?
It's a distraction. That's all it is. So they can get away with the real bad stuff.
Yeah, for sure. It is that
don't
too.
matter anymore.
When Tucker Carlson went on, and I don't even remember what the name of the show was, but when he went on when
Jon Stewart
went on the
Jon
Tucker
Stewart
Carlson.
went on Crossfire.
Crossfire, that's it, yes. When he went on and completely destroyed that show in one episode, it was because it lifted that veil. They were forced to admit it was theater. He demonstrated that it was theater. And at that point, that show was gone because it showed what they were really doing. But now people don't care.
But they thrive off it.
Yeah.
You know, YouTube, you know, be people arguing on Twitter. It's what they want now.
Yeah. And I shouldn't say people don't care. A lot of people don't care.
I suppose I should also say reality TV fed into that a lot.
Yeah.
You know what they can do overnight? They can do this to change the American political landscape, is stop piggybacking bills together and write them in ways that the average person can understand, because you think you're voting yes for something when you really want to vote no based on your position, but they word it in a way where they make you say yes, and then they put two bills together, whereas you get one. You vote for one, but you have to accept the other one because it's in the same sentence. That's bullshit as far as I'm concerned.
Because it's just the illusion of choice. They don't give a shit what you actually think. They load it up with stuff so you don't do it, so they could go, look, we gave you the option and you said no. So whatever.
They don't want you to think.
Yeah. It's all just an illusion. It's been an illusion for years. Like,
and one of the and I've brought up this before, and I won't go down this rabbit hole of why certain aspects of capitalism aren't sustainable. But one of the issues that we run into is when not private organizations, whenever these companies are bought up and mergers after mergers occur, and we get down to where we actually only have a handful of networks telling you everything that's on the TV from one end to the other. You know, some of the folks that run those places get to insert their political ideology into what they show, and without directly saying, I'm going to show you what I think, while still, you know, turning the needle by doing that. And so
and it's all Microsoft's fault. They broke the monopoly laws in 2001, so everybody gets to make all these super mergers and make everything just one big conglomeration, and they can tell you what to do because, well, they have all the stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's up, Totten? The 24-hour news. Oh, the 24-hour news stations, though, they realized early on that we can only show this one thing so many times, you know, when nothing else is going on, and people are going to start to get bored with it. So they had to sensationalize every headline, and then at the point to where they were taken over by political ideology, they have to keep moving further and further in each direction. Now, some are more guilty of this than others. In the case of your Fox News and stuff, I agree completely. But Fox News is aware that we have to push whatever it is the base is all for, which is how they ended up in the whole Dominion lawsuit thing. Is they knew it wasn't true, and court documents showed that, but they kept pushing that narrative because it's what that base, which had become their viewers, wanted to see at that point. And it was no longer about informing anyone. It was about keeping asses in seats.
Yeah. Yeah, it's brutal.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you completely, Totten, but your average American doesn't know that. They are entertainment networks. They are not news.
Well, and you were kind of suggesting they should have to say something about that, but like between the monopolization of them and I was thinking like it's almost like and you had said, Joe, I think it was you that said about like when Cronkite was reporting about Kennedy's assassination, that was, people were upset about that because there was like this sort of set standard, and you had said like maybe there should be like a label or something that says, hey, this is opinion, and then this is the news, and separate them out and have them like that, and maybe that would be good, but I think that would blend into the background after a while, and people
they would find ways to make it insignificant for sure.
And they've got that Chicken Little type approach to the news stories too, which you'd mentioned, and like whereas like everything has to be a catastrophe, a disaster, everything's the biggest thing, and that sensational like emotion that news is delivered with is a little bit much, and that I think is worldwide right now.
I mean, if I want to do a spot on here and sell you something, I have to include a tag on this video the whole time that tells you that a paid sponsorship is included in this video, right?
Yeah,
I have to tell you that I'm trying to sell you something, and that those views may not reflect the views of this channel, and yada yada yada, right? I mean, I have to do that.
That's even if you're talking about something else the whole time, and you take like 1 minute to say, hey, buy these, whatever, atheist cookies or something, right? Like whatever people want you to sell for them. But yeah, you would have and I even see that on some of the bigger channels where they are, monetized to that level. They'll say paid sponsorship like in the corner of the whole thing, but it even says that when you click on the thing, it shows that it's a sponsored.
When you hover over it, it shows it. Yes.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like before you even click on it. Now, I usually don't suspect that if they're not actually doing like a trial, like if it's something where somebody's trying out a product, I'm very doubtful, right? Like if I'm watching like a motorcycle program, and the guy's been given a motorcycle to try out, or the girl for that matter, it doesn't matter. But like they're riding a motorcycle, I'm very skeptical about their take and what they say is great and not great or whatever, if they've been paid to do it, or they've even if someone's just handed them one for a month, or they've got like a bunch of new stuff to check out. If somebody's handing you something and saying you can have it for free if you review it, I'm thinking, okay, well that review is skewed. Like that's my assumption.
Has anybody looked into that ground news? I mean, is that a legit thing? A lot of creators.
I looked into it, and it's interesting. It's like, actually, Mikey Famine and I went through the whole thing. Who are these people? And it's there's no such thing as non-biased news. It's a thing. It's it's a thing. But a quick remark on Cronkite and the assassination of President Kennedy. I'm probably the only person on the panel right now who was alive and actually watched that in real time.
Well, I was actually wanting your input on that.
Cronkite was just simply overcome with emotion.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with opinion. It was the fact that the president of the United States had been shot to death.
Yeah.
No,
and the entire country. I was in, I believe, let me think. I was in 4th grade, and it was about 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the afternoon when the announcement came over the radio, and I was pulling down the shades in the classroom to keep out the afternoon sun so that we didn't get the glare. That was, kind of what I was doing when the news came over the school PA. And just the shock and the grief was palpable on everyone's lips.
My point wasn't
and cry. If you watch it, you'll see Cronkite just do in the standard broadcaster's voice, President Kennedy has been, and his voice broke, shot. He was just overcome with emotion.
Yeah.
And my point wasn't that he was given an opinion on it. It was that he had been criticized for being unprofessional for showing his emotions at that point. And
which
after
is
the fact,
a big ask.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah. People are human, I mean,
we do have humans still doing a few jobs out there.
And the point
people in those days were actually more polite, for better or worse. I mean, very few people would jump on the air and saying Kennedy's been shot. Praise God.
Yeah, I know people would have had some decorum around the situation, despite the fact that they might have had an opinion one way or the other about whether that was a good thing or not.
Yeah, it's basically a man has been killed. I mean, the man happened to be the president of the United States, and the broadcaster, and Cronkite was the first national news guy to break the news, and he was overcome by emotion. That's all that happened.
And that's
now they do a poll, and they'd have a panel of people talking about it, and I mean, it would just be another news story now.
Well, I'd like to think that's not true, but I sadly, I think you're 100% right on that. I think that the way it works makes it so that people wouldn't have a little bit of decorum about that, no matter who was in office. If something like that were to happen, and I hope it doesn't. I think when things like that happen, it turns into a thing. And wasn't there a case quite recently of a national leader? Was it the Iranian president or something of that nature? Was killed in a helicopter crash or something, and there was all sorts of
it was around
stuff around it. But there was that wasn't something that was handled with a huge amount of decorum. And some people would say, well, why should there be, because it's this, but that it shows where we're at.
Yeah.
That's a great comment to go back to. What about the Sinclair broadcast? Oh my God! Broadcast group.
Well,
that's great because they control so much of like the local news, and they pass off like news. Like they go, here's a person doing a news story, and really it's an ad. And they have like loads of people doing it across all the little local news stations across the country, and they do it against like Canadian healthcare and all this different shit, and it's all this like weird right wing stuff about how bad the healthcare is everywhere, and it's just full on propaganda put across as news, and no one gives a flying fuck.
And that's also a function of the change in the law, which used to limit the ownership of more than one broadcast station in a particular geographical area. And that went by the wayside. I forget exactly when. So there's been a proliferation of mega corporations owning, one, like Sinclair, for example, allowed them to own multiple channels in multiple cities.
Yeah,
Own them outright and basically push out whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah,
You
they had to.
So there's very little diversity of opinion being reflected in local markets across the country.
For those of you that don't know what we're talking about with Sinclair Broadcast, they were found to have been sending all of their anchors and stuff scripts for different pieces that they had to do. They had to include in the news, and there was things such as Trump calling different people fake news and all that crap, and they were heavily scrutinized for those kind of actions and stuff, and it became a whole thing. But they controlled a big chunk of the news, as PC is posting in the chat there. PC, you're on top of it as always.
Yeah.
Yep.
Everyone, a round of applause for PC, who doesn't get enough credit. Doesn't get enough credit ever. She's awesome. Yeah, and we have I don't even know if they still do this, because I haven't read a print newspaper in a long time, but I remember there was a thing. I can't remember what it was for, but there was a thing where somebody had done something that they wanted to apologize for, and they took out a full page ad in the newspaper, and I think that was done a fair bit. And the newspaper, I think, was forced to run it because of what this was, but they had a big thing, and I think there was a law. It was in a different font than the rest of the newspaper, and there was a type as large as the quote unquote headline. Above the headline, it said, "This is a paid advertisement." And this person had purchased this full page and wrote whatever the hell they wanted to about this. I think making a fake apology is what I remember it being about, and it was somebody who had flubbed up something and wanted to spin the news their way. And they obviously couldn't get someone to just take their story at the time and just do it, but they could buy the space and have it printed and put their take on things out there. And that was a thing that was done, but it was obvious that it wasn't the editorial staff at the newspaper choosing to run the story. And I think stuff like that is
obvious
done
to who?
without that. It was, because it said right at the top, "This is a paid advertisement." I think that's been pulled out of it, and it's in the same font, and it's in there, and the story is paid for. And I remember even when I was in business, people would offer to put my company's profile in, sit down with us, you pay us $5,000 and we'll present your company in the exact light you need it presented in. That kind of thing. I had offers for that on a weekly basis for a while. I wasn't in a business where that would have helped me, but I knew damn well when I was reading articles about other businesses exactly how they got their nice little write-up. They just bought and paid for it. And that, in trade papers, I sort of get it, but in because that's how they pay the bills. But in news, it shouldn't have to be regulated, but I guess it needs to be, and that's what we started talking about. But it's a big piece of this, and I think the news and the regulation and deregulation of it plays a big part in American politics and politics in general now.
So
kind of circle back to the topic of the stream. It's like this is what's shaping the nature of the race.
Well, yeah,
we've got nonstop beats about Biden's age, his capacity, et cetera, and so forth, and not a word about the man who's 3 years younger than he is. I mean, he's a positive bouncing boy as far as the fucking newspapers are concerned, and as far as the broadcasting is concerned. And it's like, but the guy is not, he's not, he's no spring chicken. He's you know, and this is what we're getting.
Yeah.
You know, it's definitely being shaded that way.
The duel of
And
the octogenarians.
the concentration on the actual factuals of what we're talking about, Project 2025, Agenda 47 or 49, I think it is, Agenda whatever the fuck it is. We're not getting the details of that are coming out of other sources, you know.
Yeah.
And the people that are not news junkies, or the people that don't spend 100% of their time on shitter or anything else, are only just now getting an inkling as to what is actually being proposed. And we've got to do our damnedest to get that information into the hands, into the ears, into the brains of the consequences of what's coming down here. Because you got two old guys, you can choose one old demented guy or another old demented guy, but that's not the point. What you're going to get with one of those guys is a fascist, Christo-fascist dictatorship, and what you're going to get with the other one is the mere chance that we can get things like ranked choice voting, that we can get things like a reorganization of the justice system, that we can get things like that. And even if that's not the central agenda of that one party that is holding out the possibility of the continued operation of the United States government under the Constitution of 1789, as we've known it, even if that's not the explicit agenda, it is incumbent upon us to bend the arc of history towards justice. The bow doesn't bend without a hand on the bow. It's up to us. It's what Ben Franklin said when a woman in Philadelphia asked him, "What form of government are you giving us?" And he said, "A republic, ma'am, if you can keep it."
Yeah.
And we will either keep it or we won't, and it'll be on us.
I mean, we have had 40, 50 plus years of people going, man, you don't discuss religion and politics at the dinner table. So if people haven't been discussing it, then it ain't going to go anywhere, and it just deepens division because it's all about.
Don't talk about these two important things.
Yeah, they're only the things that
they would love that.
Everything in your life. You just ignore them because it doesn't matter. Don't talk about it with the ones around you. Don't see that one family could have 50 billion different political views. You don't need to see that. You need to entrench yourself and ignore everything else.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've always thought that was like the stupidest thing people said is you shouldn't talk about religion or politics. Why not? Like these are the driving issues of our culture, our country, and everything else. And you don't talk about them because you might be challenged, because someone might disagree. Come on now.
No, it's because you might call them a racist. Because one side goes, well, these group of people shouldn't do this.
Maybe they're fucking racist.
But the thing is, that's the thing. They like doing it, but they don't like realizing what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I agree.
Interesting. It's sort of the Protestant ethic. I was thinking of Max Weber as the Protestant ethic, and it's not just about making money. There's this political element too, that you have to be quiet, you have to be silent, because if you talk, then you draw attention to yourself. And I think people are afraid of being challenged. I think in the United States, and particularly this sort of Protestant Christian movement within the United States, and that's a kind of an interesting thing as a Northerner versus the South. I think in the South, in my experience, they're a lot more open about their feelings. In the North, a lot of people are very hidden, very kind of guarded, and they say one thing out one side of their mouth, and they say something out the other side of their mouth, and it's kind of hard here. I think that you guys down in the South are a little more direct than us Northern folks, if you know what I mean.
Well, somebody needs to say something.
Have you been to New York?
Oh, sure. I live right near New York, but I'm saying I still think that those people are kind of fake. I don't think that they come and say really what they feel. I think that they're like, oh, I'm doing business. I'm going to do business here. I'm going to do business there.
I mean, maybe it was just where I'm from, where I was
fuck
from.
out of here.
Like people in Bengal were very open and honest with each other. There was never any holding back.
Yeah, I'm in Maine too, and no, there's no holds barred.
But I suppose Maine is a very different place. Everyone just ignores us. We're
Maine
up in the corner.
Maine is interesting. Maine is interesting. It's the population of Maine. It's the land area of Maine is the size of the rest of New England put together. In fact, a little bit larger. The population, on the other hand, is 1.3 million. The largest city in the state is 60,000.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I say that to me, missus.
And it's an incredibly interesting. It's got more unorganized territory than any state east of the Mississippi River, and it's this weird sort of rural yet connected to the megalopolis population, with the exception of maybe the folks in Aroostook County. But the second district is red, but is represented by Jared Golden. It's an interesting state politically because, first of all, I've danced with the junior senator from the state at a barn dance. I've actually cut a rug with Angus King. Everybody knows everybody. Basically, it's basically a small town.
I always felt like everyone was kind of both left and right, because they were like, no, this is the way you do things, and there's a certain way you do things, but also everyone is everyone, and they're people too, right? And like, we should all help each other out. I mean, we're in the middle of the woods. Why would we abandon people? It's a winter. It's cold. Like, you get 6 foot of snow. People die. People care about each other, but that's why there's ways you do things. It's why
it's also the playground for a bunch of folks from away, right? It's like
Kennebunkport,
Kennebunkport, the Bushes, Mount Desert Island is the Rockefellers owned the place at one point in time. Well, most of it anyway. Acadia National Park was basically given to the federal government by the Rockefellers.
Yeah, mental.
And they still have, they still have a place up there, and there's lots of them.
You wouldn't believe what name used to own most of my state. McConnell's. Or most of the area, not most of the state. It's a big state. But
anyway, disquisition on the forgotten us Mainers up here, up the corner.
I can't do my accent anymore. It's completely gone.
You mentioned something, though, Zach, is that because I live in a small town, and so I do get this experience of people do care about each other, and talking to them, you wouldn't always know exactly what their position is on certain things. Very often I talk to locals around here that'll go on about, well, I care about how much money my family has to work with and putting food on the table and these things that people care about in an impoverished area. And I say, oh, so you're a Democrat. Well, no, I support Trump. I'm like, yeah, it's not always obvious.
Because the more you're in a small town, the more people get into flags.
Yeah. People, how to put this, because Kentucky's very low in education in the country, right? We're ranked very low, close to the bottom. And one of the things that has that's why I go on about education quite often, is because I talk to people and they're completely willing to support things against their own self-interest because the Fox News told them it was true, and that's their authority. That's the most intelligible people on the magic light box. So,
but that's why the flag matters, right? Because these people, they go, hey, we're part of the best country in the world, right? So if you're saying the best country in the world is flawed in some way, then you're saying it's not the best country in the world, so you're un-American. So the Democrats
fucking
naturally have to
communist.
be un-American because they don't walk around waving 15 flags with 6 pins on, going America every 5 seconds. They're going, there's things that we need to do to make things work. And people go, well, you're saying it doesn't work now? Even though we admit that it doesn't work and we don't like what's going on. But you're a political party that isn't saying we're the best. And we can't have that. You know what I mean? Because we're the best country in the world, and that means we're special because we live here. That means we're the best.
American exceptionalism is an idea.
Dude, when you are living in it and then you move out of it, it is fucking insane.
Yeah.
I moved to England.
No, that's
you
what I
get
always
that-
think about.
Like, oh, I had such like culture shock and everything of just like, what, America isn't the best? What, things are fucked? Oh shit, what the fuck's going on? And like I got made fun of so much because they go, what's the best of this? And you go, well, America, flag, and they go, man, you're fucked.
This is why, and Star Song's hitting on this right now, actually. But this is why it has to be not just a good idea to understand your government and how it works and all those things, but it has to be your responsibility because, and going back to what Stephanie said, which is what Ben Franklin said, is it's a republic giving you a republic if you can keep it, because you have to have the responsibility to understand how these things work and what these things mean. I mean, it's incredibly frustrating to try and carry on a conversation with a group of people or even a single person that doesn't understand a fucking thing you're saying, but Orange Man good, you know, like it's rough.
Well, yeah, because like you say about Ben Franklin saying that, but he was saying that about a very real threat of the English that was just across the water. You know what I mean? Nowadays, when it's an American doing it and going, they're going to take over and make it all theirs, they don't see it as because it's not an outside threat because they've been so primed for years and years of like, you know, just the outsider bad that you don't see it coming from within. And when it comes from within, you go, do you know what? Actually, yes, America is number one. And look at him. He's humping a flag. Of course he's the best.
Yeah. Tribalism. Yeah, you're right, PC. Tribalism completely. I agree.
And there was a great deal of tribalism to overcome within the 13 English colonies that were on the Atlantic seaboard to get together. The reason we have a First Amendment to the Constitution is because you had your Puritans in Massachusetts, and you had your Episcopalians in Virginia, and you had your Quakers in Pennsylvania, and you had your Catholics in Maryland, you had your Methodists in Georgia, you had a wide diversity of religion that every single one of those guys realized that you can't establish a religion for this new country. We can't be like the old country. And I think people need to realize the headspace that these people were operating out of. They remembered, or at least within their generational memory, like grandfathers, great-grandfathers, those people went through the fucking English Civil War. The people that my ancestors came here before the English Civil War, and Carolina was established by King Charles II, who was restored to the monarchy. You know, these people.
Well, 9/11 for a more recent example.
These people had a very, very keen sense of where they came from, and also a very keen sense of the perils they were under.
You're missing one thing. It's not just the King of England. The King of England was also like the head of the Church of England. And the Church of England wasn't like a nothing that doesn't really care about anything like it is now.
Really?
Correct. I mean, it was literally, they were literally dealing with the political aftermath of that. And, took refuge in the ideas of John Locke and the ideas of the quote unquote Enlightenment.
Well, the French Revolution as well.
And the French Revolution actually came later. No. 1789 was the establishment of the Constitution, and coincidentally, was when the shit hit the fan in France.
Fair enough.
The French king was part of the reason the revolution happened in France was because the French king had bankrolled the American Revolution, or part of it anyway.
Yeah.
You know, the French fleet.
Yeah,
France
were
spent shit tons of money.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
In more recent years, we have 9/11 as an example of a cause that people got behind and were patriotic, but that patriotism over the years devolved into something quite different. Because
it's also
sides picked up their pieces of it, and
those following weeks after 9/11 were the most patriotic.
We all ran towards kingship in those times. We trusted George W. Bush, who otherwise before you got people remember before 9/11, he wasn't particularly popular. And he didn't win the fucking election, you know. He got appointed to the office by the Supreme Court.
Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice. Can't fool me twice.
can't get fooled again.
When your enemy's got your back, you turn 360 degrees in your face.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
So women could practice their love with their OBGYNs. What the fuck? Yeah.
Whatever.
At least it was just funny then, you know?
But that's what leads to Trump.
Now it's not fucking funny.
Anyway.
Because in a lot of ways, Bush was kind of the introduction of people you don't have to have any semblance of a brain to be a leader. You know what I mean? Look at him. Everybody liked him because you could have a drink with him. I'll vote for him if it's a goof. You know what I mean? And it's kind of been that ever since.
I've been doing a deep dive recently into an ancestor of mine, William Vassall, who there's a town in Maine named after him, Vassalboro. And he was a very interesting cat. He was one of the proprietors of the Massachusetts Bay Company, which became the Massachusetts Bay Colony. Came over here in 1635 on the Arabella, and got into a big fight. We talk about partisanship and all of this. He got into a great big huge fight with John Winthrop, Shining City on a Hill, that Ronald Reagan ripped off. But he got into a big fight with him. Went back to England. Going for pleading for the rights of the colonists as Englishmen, and for essentially freedom of religious practice within the Massachusetts Bay Colony, which was primarily Puritan. And when he came back, he settled in the Plymouth colony. And got into a big fight with Edward Winslow, who was the head of the Plymouth colony, and then he went back to England, and then wound up in Barbados and got involved in the plantation settlement of Barbados. And he and his brother were big backers of the transatlantic slave trade, the English transatlantic slave trade. Fascinating individual, and a real fucking bastard. You know, it's like I'm not proud of what that dink did, but you know, it's funny when you look at history and realize that people haven't changed altogether that much.
Yeah. If what was the quote from Abraham Lincoln about repeating history? I don't remember. Hold on a second, guys. You got.
I don't know. There's too many quotes. Well, then it's kind of the problem with like everything always stemming from the thing before it, because eventually, you can't remember everything, and fucking people forget awful quick. You know what I mean? People want to forget. They don't want to forget the bad thing that happened a minute ago. They're looking for anything that'll take the mind off what happened a minute ago. So they best find the next thing, and then the next thing, and the next thing. You know what I mean? Oh, setting off my dog.
Who's barking? Damn it! I'm joking. I don't care. Sorry guys, I had to step away for a second there. I have to leave and go to work here in a minute. But so I think everybody. Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody that is here as part of the panel and everybody that watched and everything. I really appreciate just watching the channel. If you guys don't care, if you haven't, click the like and subscribe buttons if you're not a subscriber, and that would be a huge help for the channel. All the other stuff I ain't gonna plug today, but also though, there's a certain particular person within our community, How to Rule an Asteroid, Jess, who has put in a lot of hard work on this channel and has made me like 5 different intros to try and figure out the one that she thought best talked about what we were doing and stuff, and a new outro, which everyone will see for the first time today too, and all the channel artwork and many other things that you haven't seen yet. And so if you run into Jess, How to See an Asteroid, she's linked in the description. Maybe subscribe to her, say hey, say thanks, something like that, if you like what we do here. But that's all the plugging I want to do.
And if you ever want to talk to Jess and ever want to talk to trans people, call the Transatlantic Call-In program, because she call screens for the Transatlantic Call-In show.
Yeah, and I'm not sure yet, but she's going to help me set up the call screening on this show when we start to take calls on the 22nd. I don't know that she's actually going to be a call screener here. I haven't asked her that question, so I'm not going to say she is, but I'm working on redoing all of that crap to do with like mods and call screening and all that stuff. So I have to kind of pivot a little bit and switch some stuff around and stuff. So I'm looking forward though to being able to take calls, even if we don't get many, which I don't expect we will at first. That's cool. Still, for those that don't ever want to show up or whatever and defend their positions, maybe they can call and do it there if they want. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Or if you agree, I'm not going to be like only theists can call. Anybody can call whenever we get it set up. I just may not talk to you for very long. So
anybody can call the line. It's just that theists get priority on the
sure.
Particularly on the Sunday shows.
Well,
and
that's why I don't want to say that, because they have to prioritize because they have so many viewers. It wasn't a dig at them for it.
It's also because they're looking for spicy content.
So you need that conflict. Always need that conflict.
Yeah. Well, I really enjoyed what I watched on the line last night with Matt and Jimmy. It was good seeing Jimmy on there, not looking so bad, and doing a show with Matt and having fun with it and stuff. And I like those guys over there. I just don't watch their content that often. I recently just watched the Transatlantic Call-In show. Yeah, that's it, right? And I recently just watched, in the last few months, the first episode I'd watched of it, and was literally like yelling at the TV, like, "Fucking get him, Ben, get him!" And so a really good show if you do like that kind of thing, because those calls get spicy quick sometimes, and
they can do. They can do. I've been in the middle of a few. I've been on the show like 7 times, and I don't call. Did I? Yeah, I think I call screen for one of them when Jess couldn't make it.
Yeah. Is the chewed gum, is that related, or is that something completely different?
Chewed gum is basically the focus on that tends to be call in, defend the patriarchy. Go ahead. So I call screen for a bunch of the shows, and I've been on Takis a number of times. It's it's kind of an interesting. It's the way the channel works is kind of interesting. The model is different from, I think, from many. I mean, it bears some similarities to the Atheist Community of Austin shows for maybe obvious reasons, but I
mean, those guys over there, I love what they do. They do great things. Matt's been here, of course. I haven't invited Jimmy or anything, but Matt's been on here. Other people have been here. Eric's been here. Who else has been here from Stephanie has worked with them for a long time and has been here many times. So I love what those guys do over there. I don't hang out there often because it's not the best place conducive to like talk in the chat, because there are so many people trying to talk at once. But you know, I do love what they do. And occasionally you get to see Forrest and Gutsick Gibbon together for hours and hours on end, and that is an awesome show if you've never seen one of those.
Seth Andrews has been on several times lately, and he's always entertaining and also easy to listen to.
He's going to be up in that Kentucky thing, right, Joe?
What is it now?
He's going to be up in that free thought thing up there, isn't he, Seth?
Yeah, well, the Kentucky Free Thought Convention is in September. I think the 7th is the date for it. There'll be a lot of people there. That's a big deal. Usually, I don't know if you know who Daryl Ray is, Dr. Daryl Ray. He makes a point to come to that one. Seth Andrews comes to a lot. I imagine Aaron Raw will probably be there. I'm not speaking for him, but he's usually at it. It's a big one usually, actually, and so I plan on actually setting up there and maybe hawking some merch and talking to some folks and all those things. I figured the Kentucky Free Thought Convention would be a real popular place to sell things that say Kentucky Atheist on them.
Maybe. Could be. Just maybe.
So, yeah, I thought that there might be a market for it. So that's that. But I'm going to set up there and try to meet some people too and everything. I will be there no matter what, though. And Robin, our own Robin, she'll be there for representing RFR. And which, if you don't know about RFR, definitely look into that. I think they're linked in the description. They should be. But yeah, Kentucky Free Thought Convention is September 7th, I think. It's that first week of September. It's either the 5th or the 7th. And
it's the 7th. It's the 7th.
Yeah, the 7th. That's what I thought. Yeah, anybody that makes the trip to that, I hope to see you there, and that'll be super cool. It'll be my first convention, honestly, so I'm looking forward to that. But
you'll be dressed in a chicken suit, right?
I'll be the guy in the chicken suit.
That's classy. Just, just to make sure that Kent Hovind sees you. It's like,
oh yeah, Kent Hovind, and I am glad that it is good to see that Mandisa just whooped Kent Hovind all over the place today. That was fantastic to watch. I'm always glad to see a little.
You never actually beat Kent Hovind. You can be right about everything. It doesn't mean
it was on the Genesis Baptist Church or whatever the hell it's called. Genesis, the channel that he posts on now. Yeah. They streamed it live. But yeah, whatever. Kent relies on his rhetoric and his little quips and things, and it just wasn't flying today. His script is too well known at this point to if I wanted to debate Kent Hovind, I don't actually have to debate him. I can just play anything of the last 30 years that he's made and argue against it, because it's the exact same shit he would say anyway. So
well, yeah, because he's still using textbooks from the 70s.
yeah, it's Kent Hovind. Has anybody watched any of the documentaries about the parts about Kent Hovind here recently, released by Proverbs Guys? Complete propaganda, like just full of lies, and they're trying to repair Kent's image some, because so many people have spoken out about some of his actions and events that have taken place at DAL and how it reflects on the cult leader that runs it. So yeah, but it's good for a laugh. I can tell you that. You will laugh as anyone with a skeptic bone in their body. They will laugh when they watch that because it's hilarious. They paint it as there's been this whole big national movement and the whole country was upset because Ken Hovind was locked up for structuring, which was never a thing. But I mean, him being locked up for structuring was a thing. Just nobody really gave a shit aside from like a handful of extremists. But there you have it. Anyway, I guess you tell the lie and hope nobody checks. But they actually, at one point, they talk about people supporting Kent Hovind, and they show what I think, and they talked about this on another channel. I think it was over on AJ's channel. They talked about it was a shot from when Martin Luther King gave his "I Have a Dream" speech, and they tried to they were talking about the crowds that come to see Kent Hovind, and they didn't say that was a crowd that was there to see Kent Hovind, but made it seem like that was a Kent Hovind supporters that were protesting because he was in jail. Hilarious that it was like thousands and thousands of people. Yeah, it was crazy, but it was they released it in parts too, so you can go watch parts 2 and 3 and 4 are of good interest. Part 1's just stupid, I think, but do you, I guess. And PC, you don't have to plug any of that Kent Hovind shit. I'm just going on about it.
But that Kent Hovind is such a great hero who teaches us about science. He's the science teacher of all time.
Oh,
Dr. Kent Hovind, Issa. Dr. Kent
He's
Hovind.
a doctor. He is the doctor of doctors, He's going to walk an atheist. He's going to walk an atheist.
Yeah. Well, he can whack me anytime he wants. But that being said, I don't.
I'm
personally,
surprised.
I had a time. Well, Proverbs guys tried to set up me debating Kent Hovind, and I had said no over and over and over. And I was like, I'm not interested. I just don't like. I can debate Kent again. Exactly what I told you guys. I can debate Kent without him even being here. He's going to say the same thing either way, whether it's young Kent or older Kent saying it, doesn't matter, I don't guess. And I eventually, they had broke me to where I was like, look, whatever, I'll do it, okay? And then I said, one condition though, if we're doing it on your channel, I want you to appoint someone from my channel as a moderator during the debate, because I don't want all my people kicked off for just disagreeing, which seems to be a thing that goes on over there. And they couldn't agree to that. And I said, well, I didn't really want to do it anyway. Thank you for giving me an out. And so I ran scared, if you want to say. That's fine. I'll take it. I don't think that there's this notion that, there's this notion that as an atheist creator, it's like something that you should do to go and debate Kent Hovind. And I think that's ridiculous. I think that's a ridiculous notion and a waste of time. I think that Mr. Anderson does a good job covering Kent Hovind in that he talks about debate tactics and why those arguments are bad, rather than just arguing against Kent's arguments. So I do like some of the stuff people do about Kent Hovind. I ain't that guy. It's just not me. So I'm not going to do it. I am, however, going to cover an AIG video this week, which, but not because I think AIG is any more reputable, but because of the clear misrepresentation of science by a professional. So yeah, that's the thing I'm actually covering. I don't give a shit that it's AIG, but that's my take on it. I don't care what other people do. If you debate Kent Hovind and whoop him, Grayson, when he comes on for the first call-in show on the 22nd, I'm going to give him a big virtual high five for mopping the floor with Kent Hovind when he went to DAL. I mean, I think it's great that he did that, but it's just not for me. My type of content and approach isn't really suited for just dealing with Ken Hovind. And to me, I feel like I would just be breathing air into a jackass. So
I mean, I'd like to ask him about his apricot seeds, but that's about it.
I would like to have a discussion with Ken Hovind. I just don't want to debate him.
Yeah,
I would love to talk to him.
Ask him where he got his idea that apricot seeds were going to cure diseases and why he gave it to people and why he thought him and his son thought was a good thing and that they'd fight against that and continue to try and do that because, you know, God did it, told him to do it.
His followers actually came here, one of them anyway, I'm not going to give any names, but gave my dearly departed ex-co-host advice on his cancer to use apricot seeds, and I said, I don't know, maybe ask your doctor about that. They might know. They might know a little more than
I guess the way I'd put it is that's the pits.
Yeah. And in this case, poisonous pits.
Indeed, yeah, that's not advisable.
Yes, they do. They contain cyanide. Yes,
just like
in trace amounts, but not good for treating cancer necessarily. It will kill the cancer cells. Cyanide will, though. Just
that's the downside.
Yeah, there is a side effect. But yeah, I mean, I love talking about things, you know, some of the things creationists put forward and things like that. But I would rather have a discussion. And when it comes to Kent Hovind, if I'm going to talk to Kent Hovind, I don't even want to talk about evolution. I want to talk about the Bible, and he's not going to do that. So, you know, it's just that there's no upside to it. Anybody could debate Kent Hovind and do it better than I can. So let him go.
Because he's only about numbers. That's all he matters. That's all he cares about. Look, I've debated 6 billion atheists. That's how good I am. That's all he cares about.
I don't need to clout chase Kent's name. That's not going to benefit me either. There's no upside to it. There isn't. You know, and so I gain a few subscribers, I can be patient and maybe gain those. And I would rather work for him than just because I made a video about Ken Hovind, you know. Although I did make a video about Ken Hovind when I first started this channel, but I have to say many of my views, opinions, and ideas have changed since then. So it's there if you want to see it, but it's not very good. And it's just me arguing against his creationist seminar shit, which again is the same thing he argues to this day. So whatever. But if there's some idea or something that somebody like that Ken Hovind said and they want to know why it doesn't hold water or why it's not true, or have a discussion about, you know, what Kent Hovind does and things like that, I'm fine talking about Kent Hovind. I just have no desire to talk to Kent Hovind. It doesn't interest me. It never has, really. I don't know. I have no desire to talk to Ken Ham, and that's a situation as a Kentucky taxpayer that affects me personally.
I don't know. I'd really like to ask him why he looks so much like a chimpanzee or a bonobo and doesn't believe in evolution. I really need to know that. I want to know why so many evolutionists, like anti-evolutionists, look like fucking chimpanzees. It's like, look at you. You look exactly like them. Stop it. Bush, Kent Hovind. You know what I mean? Well, hey, they're our cousins. We look like them. It's fine. It's just, I love the prevalent, how much it prevails in the fundamentalist community.
I try not to comment on personal appearances.
Don't. But when it's fundamentalists saying that we aren't apes and they look like one, I am forced.
Yeah. Well, I do have to say in Ken Ham's situation, it's something that's been mentioned many times.
I know, but I have to do it for myself just for kicks.
Ken Ham looks like a pig's ass, so yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, he acts like one usually, but these kind of things, you know,
Sorry,
like
had to go there.
You know, one of my favorite theists that I've had on, aside from Issa, of course, I love Issa. Issa comes and visits, but one of my favorite theists that I've had on and had conversations with Mark Stoney, because I mean, he actually wants to talk about the, why he thinks certain things are this way, and we can actually have a conversation about it, rather than just giving me quips and rhetoric and all that crap. Like, it doesn't. I don't really want people's arguments anyway. I know what the arguments are. They've been the same for thousands of years. Let's talk about, the effects these have, what you do with those beliefs, why you hold so tightly to them in the face of evidence to the contrary. Let's talk about those things. Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Well, that's yeah, as you know, that's precisely where I'm at, Joe. It's like, you can believe anything you want. Just tell me what you're doing with them. And if what you're doing with them is shit, then maybe you need to reconsider either what the validity of the belief or the validity of your interpretation of the belief. Because I know plenty of Christians that don't see the world the way you do, and I just
before you and I ever talked, Steph, I had a video that did very well. It got like, I don't know, back then it was like maybe 15,000 views or whatever. Me talking about televangelists and the crazy shit that they say. And one of the things that I was attacked for over and over in the comments by Christians mostly, there were some Muslims and stuff too, but one of the things that was said to me over and over is, why do you spend so much time doing this? You don't believe in God, but you want to talk about God all the time and all this and that. And I had answered them, maybe not as clearly as possible. I don't always speak so clearly, but I had went on Steph's show shortly after that and was watching late at night. Steph was doing a stream, and Steph said, I think it's right after you had talked to Pine Nuts, and I think Jimmy Tux was defending.
It was that one. Yeah, that was that. Yeah. That turned into a holy shit.
Right. And you said, look, I don't give a shit what you believe. It's what you do with what you believe that I care about. And when you said that, it just hit. That was how I needed to hear it. And that's that just did so much for me in the way that I started thinking about different things and stuff. And
it's
not that I didn't know that before, just the wording was so beautiful. It was so
it's an oversimplification. So yes, I do kind of care about what you believe, but I don't think that's the central issue. I really think it's the consequences. How do you act in the real world? That matters.
I think there's there's nuance to that, but it's a good way to at least get the general idea of, I don't hate believers. I don't, even though they think I should go to hell for not agreeing with them or whatever, or, I don't hate those people. I don't agree with them, but I hate the things that they use that belief to then go and do. And it's the things they do. And,
do you get offended when they say you're going to hell? I mean, it's like an empty threat when they say you're going.
Yeah, they think it's a bigger shot.
Okay. So, but what's that mean now?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Thank you for your concern about a future that I don't think is at all possible, for one thing, or at least is highly unlikely. But what's that mean to me now?
Yeah.
If I'm living in sin, but I'm living in also in happiness, how does that work? And is it your aim to destroy my happiness by threatening retribution in an afterlife? Or alternatively, do you threaten retribution now? And I've had theists have said, well, it's not for me to judge. Except that if they put laws into effect that make it impossible for my happiness to be extant in the only world we know, then it's. I forget. Somebody was having a conversation with a theist, and one of the people on the panel was Oh yeah, it was Jay was on some channel. Anyway, one of the people on the channel was gay. This this person was basically saying, "Well, I go by biblical law, and yeah, you know, the Bible says stone them." And
Yeah.
and Jay goes, "Well, would you put this fellow to death?" And that was the guy's answer. Well, it's not for me to judge. That's up to God. That's in God's purview.
Yeah.
Except God told you to stone him, not in the
Yeah.
afterlife, in the here and now. So would you
Yeah.
support a law in the here and now that says this person should be stoned to death?
Do you mind if I interject?
That's the question. That's the question. That's the question that I think is more germane, because you don't give them an out. If you think that laws ought to be on the books right now in the here and now that gay people ought to be killed, then I think you're a shit person.
Yeah, but the
I don't
problem
care what
is,
your God says.
no. The problem is they don't care. All they're doing is looking at the Bible and finding which bits are going to accord with which personal bits they give a shit about. And if they don't give a shit about it, so like when it goes, you got to kill the gays because they're gay and you got to stone them or whatever. In the same book, it goes, do you know what? If your wife cheats on you and she has a kid with another guy, well, then they drink the bitter drink and abortion's okay. But they don't like that bit because it doesn't accord with what they want now.
Right.
And that's all it is.
It's kind of a cafeteria approach that we get accused of all the time, or that you know, people with more liberal interpretations of the Bible. The Bible is allegory, get accused of all the time. And it's like, and my position is, it's a fucking book.
Yeah.
So
Somebody wrote the book.
One thing that we need to interject here is this text we're talking about, the Hebrew scriptures, is for Israelite people. So it's very interesting when I hear people who are not Jewish, who are not Israelites, using this argument. I'm like, the text is talking to ancient Israelite people. It's not talking to modern day people who are not of Jewish ancestry. It's talking about people from that particular time. And it's really funny because people say this, like, oh, yeah, it's talking about us. I'm like, no, you would be a Gentile. You would be a part of the Goyim. And that's what I think is really funny when I hear all these people saying, oh, you know, I'm going to take the rules of the Bible. I'm like, yeah, it's not a book talking to you. It's not a book about you. And it's talking to you.
I know Joe has to go. But the point is, that's still it's always been a shitty law. Whether it was you know, 2 millennia ago or
but Jesus said it's okay, so it doesn't matter. Jesus connects it all.
That's
and
the
then you
point.
get to forget about the other stuff because Jesus.
But Jesus it takes a very different approach to these laws, and that's the interesting thing, because
nobody cares what Jesus said. They care what Paul said.
Is that the same God that I'm supposed to worship?
In this instance,
for a Muslim,
in this instance,
and none of them care.
And the Israelites themselves don't believe in these laws now because there's no temple. These laws were conditioned on the temple existing. We don't even have a temple anymore.
But here's the point.
You would think God would have fixed that.
I mean, and that's fine. I'm just saying my argument that I'm making is that I'm saying
I get it.
People are like, oh, look at this text, you know, about stoning. I'm like, yeah. If the Israelites saw you who are part of this text, they'd be like, who are you? You're not even a part of our community. You're not even able to come into the door of this space before you even looking at the law. And that's just what I think is really funny. You have these people who are like, I believe it.
I agree with you. I agree with you. But here's the point. The point is that the individual concerned was using the text to say homosexuality is wrong because God said it was wrong, and points out this text wherein God said that's wrong.
And the problem is that
God spells out the let's say the contemporaneous consequence of being wrong, doing wrong, and that consequence.
Are you busy Monday evening, Issa?
Huh?
Monday evening, are you busy around 6 o'clock?
I can be free. I can be free Monday evening.
6 p.m. Eastern time Monday. Be here and we'll talk about it, okay? Because I do want to talk about that. I don't have time today, but I do want to go further into that because there's something important there that I want to discuss with you.
Do you mind if I say one last thing? I just wanted to address one.
No, go for it. Everybody say your last things.
I know you have to go. My point that I wanted to bring to this situation is it's really fascinating the shift that we see from like the Hebrew scriptures into the Gospels into what we see in modern day. And you see people who want to, it's interesting because it's cultural appropriation, according to liberal leftist diversity, equity, inclusion rhetoric. It's a sort of cultural appropriation where people don't know about their own particular ancestries, and then they pick on this particular ancestry that they don't really understand very much about in a culture they don't really know about. And even the modern day descendants of this culture don't even have that direct connection to, because of so much spatial difference and cultural differences of this time based on that time. And I think it's really fascinating because I wanted to address it. I think it's really fascinating that people are like, well, you would stone them. And I'm like, yeah, but you're not an ancient Israelite living in the ancient Middle East. You're a person who's probably of European ancestry living in America, and you have a very different cultural reality than these ancient people did. And I just find it interesting that people want to, it's kind of like they want to be something that they're not. And I understand, because I'm going to be very frank here, and this might sound a little offensive, but you'll have to excuse me. I think particularly people of European ancestry, a lot of the culture has been erased because of certain Christian movements have come in. And it's actually the same thing with Islamic culture too. I'm not going to deny this as well, that a lot of the indigenous cultures have been wiped out. And we don't know much about the cultural things because these movements came in and said, your identity, your culture doesn't matter. This culture is superior to this other culture. Your indigenous gods and deities, they don't matter. We're going to wipe them out. And you now have to take on this new identity from the Middle East. And this cultural erasure creates a lot of problems. So I think there's a huge anthropological crisis that's a part of this as well. But
yeah, that's also a wide-ranging discussion that would be fascinating to have as well.
Yeah, I think there's a good discussion in there we can have, Issa, and I don't have a guest planned for this Monday, so if you'd like to come, and it doesn't have to be we're going to disagree, but it's not necessarily an argument. I want to discuss some of the ins and outs of what you're pointing there, and actually get your perspective about why you hold that position. But so I want to have a nice civil discussion, just you and I. I don't think it's not a debate. We don't need a moderator or nothing. And we'll have that discussion, and then we'll open it up and let some other people come in and give their thoughts and feelings, opinions, whatever on it. I think that'll be a good show. And all right.
My last bit is going to just sort of reflect back on, I don't care what you believe, but I care what where your beliefs lead you to think and act in the modern world. And that was the point of that back and forth that didn't happen. It's like, well, you believe in this thing, and that has consequences in the modern world, even if they're not stoning at this point in time. You're still basically deriving that belief, which does have consequences, from that framework, and that does damage in the real world.
That's one of them. If you think if you think the book is sent by God, it doesn't matter which religion it came from first. You think it's the word of God, and you're following that God, whether you're still following it or not. Because what? Jesus came around, he told everyone to be a Jew. A bunch of them were Jews. It was what Ebionites that followed both the Sermon on the Mount and the Old Testament and stuff like that. And then Paul went, "You're kind of messing up Judaism a little bit. I don't like it." And then went, well, we can have the Gentiles do all this stuff, and let's just take it. I know Jesus said to be a Jew, but we'll just do that because we want followers and the Jews don't. You know what I mean? They wanted to grow the religion. It's the main reason they did it.
Anyway, if you want to see more of me, I haven't done jack on my channel of late, but I have been concentrating my efforts with Bree McCune and Ember Bellerad and Carly Chardonnay Webb on the transpositions, which we do every Thursday at 0 hour Zulu. So it's actually Friday 0 hour Zulu, which is 8 o'clock Eastern. And we did a show last night. It was kind of good. We conflicted with the debate, so we had lousy viewership. But you can catch the show. It's posted on the YouTubes, and we talk about news that's affecting the trans community on a weekly basis, and have some spirited discussions. It's fun. Joe, you're muted.
Yeah, I think you're muted, Joe.
Helps if I'm not muted. Zach, what do you got going on?
I do a channel called The Shaker Fist. I mainly make fun of theists, and at the minute I'm recording some like music videos and stuff, so that should be fun. I'm doing some music parodies, so that should be cool.
Okay. Well, I do want to say, but to both of you guys, Zach, I find your content hilarious, and I enjoy watching it. It's a lot of fun to watch, and I love your take on a lot of things. We've talked about that a lot. I enjoy it. And as for the Transpositions channel, I've only seen a little bit of the content over there, but what I've seen so far has been really awesome and informative, and just really good stuff. And I think that you guys are onto what's going to be a really good big channel eventually. It's a really good channel now to be a really big channel in the future, I think. But I'm a dipshit from Kentucky. What do I know? That's my feelings on it. But definitely check out both of these channels and subscribe, support them, leave them comments, all those great things. They appreciate it and want your interaction. They're doing these things for a good reason, not just to talk. They're trying to make the world a better place. So I personally thank both of you for that. Issa, I have to give Issa some credit, even if I think he's wrong about what he said a minute ago. Issa is very willing to have conversations, not always easy conversations, with people that disagree with him, and do it in a civil way. And I think Issa communicates very clearly. And Issa, even if I disagree with him, I have to say spends his professional life and personal life trying to help others and do things too. So I do appreciate the things that you do there, Issa, because again, it's not about what you believe. Although I do disagree with it. Do you got anything you want to?
I might be able to persuade you. I might. We'll see. I think it'll be interesting, our conversation on Monday.
Can we have a snowball fight in hell afterwards?
I might be able to persuade you of some of my ideas. We'll see. I'm pretty good at persuading people of what I think. So
okay, well,
I'll just say la ilaha illallah wa muhammadan rasulullah. So
I mean, you in with that? I got Stephanie to join up.
Do you have anything you want to plug or anything, Issa, before I shut this down?
Yeah. So on Matters Now, I do Tell Me That Story, and we are going to be doing. If you're a millennial from the 90s, you'll probably remember this. But it's funny because it's actually older, the stories. But I'm going to be reading stories called Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. And I'm going to be reading a lot of those stories. And, it probably will bring back a lot of nostalgia. They're fun stories. So, yeah, check us out on Wednesday, this week coming up. And it's Tell Me That Story. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Cool. They don't give you any flack for that being a copyrighted work of fiction?
We read stories. Yeah, we can read stories, and then we, because it's like fair use, so you can talk about it.
Okay. Oh, you read the actual stories from that series of
yes. And then we talk about what our reflection is on it. We've done Hans Andersen. We've done all kinds of cool stuff.
Well, I can see where that has application. So yeah, good stuff. I haven't. Again, it's just a matter of I can't watch every channel all the time. So I'm not real up to date on what's been going on over there. I need to visit there more often, I guess. but I'll try and do that. And before we talk on Monday, that way we can discuss some of the things you're actually doing in a little more depth. Again, whether I agree or not. As for this channel, same old stuff, guys. I do member streams throughout the week for anybody that's a member. Doesn't matter what level. Starts at 99 cents and goes up. So if you want to see those, you got to be a member. I publish unedited and exclusive stuff on my Patreon. If you want to go that far, again, it's up to you. I'm not trying to say you should do that, but if you just can't get enough of my sexy Kentucky accent, then there's more of it to be had there. All that being said, though, this Sunday, I've got Peter from the channel going to go for it. We're going to talk a bit about some of the stuff he does working with other channels. We're going to talk about the upcoming channel OBS guys that he's working on with Mark Stoney. And Monday, Issa's going to come back, and we're going to discuss this who the Bible is meant for things, and or at least portions of it. I don't want to straw man your position too much here. So we're going to talk about some of that, and we'll take that wherever it goes. I have a feeling I know where it goes, but we'll try it anyway. As for everybody that showed up, I appreciate you coming and supporting the channel. Please like and subscribe. That's the biggest thing you can do to help me out right now. And have a great day, guys. Thanks for your time. I'm going to work. Goodbye.